In this short video, I'm going to explain how to set up and structure the Chapter 3 assignment in Learning Module 4. Now this assignment we're doing is from page 174 of our textbook. It's question number 13, both A and B. And we're going to create two Java files. And then this right here, these two, they're straight from the textbook. It explains the assignment, and that's all that is given to you in the textbook. But I also thought you might need a little further explanation on how to create your program, so I gave you what you should have in both of your Java files. Now, the class names, the method names, you can change them. I just did it this way, so I kept it consistent, but make sure you use proper naming conventions. And then I'm making this video here where you can, well, you're listening to it now, but I'll help you get started on this program. And then just be sure when you submit this assignment right here, I need you to submit two files. So we are creating two files, one called testbankaccount.java and one called bankaccount.java. So both of those have to be submitted for grading. So I'm going to go over to JGrasp, and you can start by creating two files. So this one I'll create and I'll save it. This will be my test bank account, and it'll automatically add the .java extension. I'm going to add I'm going to add a V. I'll add my initials at the end, and I'm doing that because I already have coded this and I have my files already named bank account and test bank account. So name yours test bank account and hit save. And then we're going to create a new file, so a new Java. So we have two files open in our workspace, and this one we're going to name bank account. And again, I'm adding my initials because I already have the other ones. So what we have here using JGrasp, and you can do this in different compilers, excuse me, you just create multiple files. If you're not sure, then I would just install JGrasp and use that if you're not sure of your compiler. So we have two things that we're going to go between. Now, to help set up and understand how multiple files work, you really need to read carefully through pages 139 through 165. I know this is the majority of the chapter, but what it talks about, I'm not going to read it to you, but what it talks about is how to create, what classes and objects are, exactly how to create a class. On page 140, it explains the important concepts of get and set methods that we'll be using in this assignment. Also on those pages, it talks about what the keywords of public and private and static mean. And the keyword that goes on with page 142 and 143. 142 tells you how to create a class. But in this section, there are two pieces of code that really show a great example, very similar to how you do this assignment. One is on page 150. It's the you do it, and this, let's see, this shows us how to create a class called spa service. And then you go on, it's called spa service.java, and as you go on through reading this chapter, on page 154, you create, with that, in that file, you create spa service objects, and you interact by creating a constructor on page 156. And finally, on 158, that shows you how to use or create your constructor. And then the you do it on page 163 shows us how to do the create spa services Java file. That's on 163 and 164. So those two programs are a really good example of how you should structure your bank account program. Now I gave you these two files so you don't have to code them. So what I would suggest you do, let's see if I can open up a different, oh, I tried. Okay, I've got my two open here. I have given you these completed SPA programs so you can click the, well, let me not open in that window. I click here. Save link as. I'll right click and I'll save these two files. So I'll save them to my desktop for now. Oh no, I stored them in here. So download them and save them. Spa service. And then I'm going to right click and create spa service.java. So save it as create spot. I just thought I already had those there. Open. Okay, so I took those two files and saved them to where my files are stored in JGRASP. Let me hit my refresh button here, and I can see those two. So here's the assignment files. I'll leave those open. But I'm also going to open up these two sample files, create spa service and spa service. And these two programs are set up in a way where you can follow the message to do your bank accounts. So first, let's look at spa service. This file here is a class that is similar to what you're going to put into your file called bank account. So this structure is going to be over here. Bank account will include kind of my generic class. What will be in there is this information. And this here that I typed up, I interpreted this from this explanation in the book. Create a class named bank account that with fields that hold an account number, an owner's name, a balance. It has a constructor. It has your set and get methods. It has a deduct monthly fee, and it has an explain account policy method. And so what I did is interpreted this into this here. So now I go to my bank account file. I'm going to take that out of Blackboard, what I just did, so I know what to type, what I just copied. And this will be what's inside of here. Now, if you're not sure what to, your main will not be in this file. Main will be in the test bank account file. So over here, I would follow the structure where you have a public class called bank account, and then you have variables. You have your constructor, which is what this is. It initializes your objects to nothing, 0, null. That's what this is. The XXX or whatever. It could say anything. No value now until they enter something. And then So strings you set with string literals and numbers you set with zeros. Make sure in the constructor, read the rules in the book, you do not use data types in there. So in our public, inside of our bank account file, this is what we're doing, creating one class. And in that class we have private variables. We'll have some public variables as well, or some variables that we can access other places. And then we have our constructor, and then we have our set, get. So we have our sets and gets in here. Our set methods, again, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, make sure you read those pages in the book where it explains them. But this sets a value to our variable, whatever we pass into it. So our set methods accept arguments from, or accept parameters from arguments that are passed. So we'll always have a value here with our sets. Now, and those will be voids. Now with our get methods, get service and get price, these return values. So the data types aren't void, they're the data type of whatever we're returning out of that method. So that is what would be in your bank account. Now, to get you started on the basic setup, we would do in here, create our class called bank account, and mine, I changed mine to add KV, so that's what I have to do. Yours would just be bank account. And then we open it, and I'm going to close it right away because there's a lot of things that we're going to add in here, and I'll document it. End of the class. Now, before I create my variables, well, you know, what we would do right first of all in here, declare your variables, and then you would have your constructor, and then you could code your set methods, and in this case we have 1, 2, 3 sets and 3 gets. So 3 of them. One that gets each of these variables that we create, and then, or sets them. And then our step 4 would be code your get methods, 3 of them. And then step 5 inside of our class, what we would do is our calculations. So we have one calc method that I called deduct monthly fee. Again, read the directions. That's, we have to take $4 off the balance. And then our last one is another, well, it's part of our output. Oh, why did it go there? Our last step in this method is our output to just display a message about what our fee is about. So output, we'll just use system.out.print statements or printlns that explain the monthly fee in a method I called explain account policy. Just throw that down there. So this is what we have in this, in our bank account file, a class called bank account. Ignore KV. We open and close it. We're going to fill in these blanks, and we're going to, again, do it matching this structure. What variables do I need? That's the first thing. You're going to have private string account number. Now this is a number, but some account numbers have letters in them, or they're very long and they would exceed the size of what a double could hold or what an inch could hold. So typically string we would use for something like this. It's like a phone number. It's called a phone number, but it also includes characters. I'll create a variable called private string for my account holder's name, and then 1 for my balance, and that would be a double. And then I'm going to use a constant variable, so I'll use the final keyword, static, double, fee, and I'll set that to $4. And I'm doing that so I don't, if my fee changes later on to $6, I just change it in one spot, and I don't have to search everywhere for the number 4. So those are the variables that your program needs here. So you'll create your constructor. I'm not going to code much of this, so when you create your constructor, follow this method right here in the spa service. And then you're going to go on to your sets. We have 3 sets. I'll show you one example of one set. We would say public, void, and I want to set my account number, and I'm accepting a string variable for account. Open, close, and document. End of set method 1. If you don't document and open and close right away, you will get lost. Now all you're doing here is simply take your variable account number and set it equal to the value that you passed in. So account number equals ACCT. That's the value that you're passing in. So you'll go on and you'll do your next one. Next set for set method, for set name, for the customer name, and then the next one for setting the balance. And again, balance is a double, so set name would be just like this, but set name and balance would be a double. Okay, now we go on to code our methods for, we're going to go code our methods for our get, and our get will be public. So let's get our account number. Now the data type isn't going to be void because our gets, if you remember when you read the chapter, or pay attention when you read the chapter, is gets have data types that match what we're returning. So I'm returning a string, so it would be public string get account number. I don't have arguments with my gets. I'm opening, closing, and of get 1. And what I want to do in here is return a value. So I'm returning what I've have set. So return account number. And that's all that you would do in your get. So code, again, go on and code the one that returns, code the get that returns name, which would be a string, and then code the get that returns balance, and that data type would be double, so you'd put double there. Our method here to deduct monthly fees, the basic setup would be public void deduct monthly fee. We're not passing anything in, open, close, but in here you simply would do your calculation. That would take balance equals balance minus fee. And then here, a simple public static void, and then we're making it static void because we're going to call it from different places. We're going to call this explain account policy, and open and close, and just simply output statements. I'll show you my sample output in when I'm done explaining. So that is what you would have. Here's the class. Let me just generate so we can see my organization, but I have one class with my variables. I have a constructor. I have my sets and my gets, and then my calculations. And it's very similar to what we did here with spa service. follow, here's an example of the double, so follow this. Now, in your create spa services and your test bank account files, these get a little bit more complicated because this is where everything runs out of. When you want to run your program, so say I want to run the spa program, I can't run it from this file that has my class. Build, run. Oh, I have something running. I can't run it from this file because that's not where main is. I have to run it from where main is. So I would go to my main, create spa services, and now I have interaction going on. I'm going to not run it right now. But what you do inside of this file, which then would be this one over here, is you create your program that interacts with your sets and gets in this file. So that, let's go back to Blackboard. What's going to go in there is this stuff. And this is a file called test bank account. Oh, test bank account. Whoops. Let me comment it out. This file will contain main, and when you want to run it, run program from this file. Put your sample output at the bottom of this one. Okay, let me put in my directions so I don't have to go back and forth from Blackboard to here. If I can get the right key. Oh. Okay, so what you would do here is what it says here. Create a class called test bank account. Now remember, we are going to import Java. We have to do input, so import java.util.scanner, and then we'll start our class. So class test bank account. Whoops, wrong language. Open, close, end of class. Now, as your example that you're looking at, create spa services. Same thing, we imported the scanner. Here's our class services. We have a main. We have a get data in here that accepts an object, and then we return a value out of that. We're going to have one more in ours. So they have their gets as part of main. We're going to move some of those around in this one based on these. So everything is inside of our class, remember. So we'll start with our normal public, static, void, main, string, args, open, close, end of main. And inside of main, the first thing that you want to do is create your objects. So create 4 bank account objects. The data type is bank account, so it would be bank account and then account 1. Bank account, account 2. Account 3, and then account 4. But account 4 is going to be different because we want to use and test our constructor. So we're going to say account 4, and we're going to set that bank account 4. We're going to set that equal to our constructor right here. And now this will call the constructor, and the constructor, remember, is coded over here. Right here, what it'll do is set those blank or null values, and that's similar to what's shown right here in spa services. So in your constructor, take your 3 variables, account name, number, and what's the other one? Account name, number, and balance, and set those to 0 or empty quotes, something for the string literal. So we create our 4 objects, and then we get our data for account 1, 2, and 3. So it would be account 1.getData. Oops. And then account 2.getData, account 3.getData. We're not going to get it for account 4. I have a missing T there. We're not going to get it for account 4 because we're doing the constructor with that. But what we do next then is show our values. So this part of the code will get the details. And then the next part will show the balances and the values. So when we do that, it would be show values, because we're going to code that, and we want to pass in our objects. So account 1, you do that for account 2, account 3, and then account 4. And that ends main. So everything centers around main, which is basically creating objects for them, making 3 calls to fill our first 3 objects, and then showing the values for all 4 objects. The other 2 methods that you're going to have in this class to complete the program is you're going to have one where we have to call show we have to create these 2 that we just called, get data and show values. So public, static, void, show values, and show values accepts an argument. So my parameter list is going to be bank account because that's what I'm passing into it, or that's the data type, and I'll just call this B, bank account B. You can call it whatever you want. It's just a temporary value. Open, close, and show values. Now in here, you're going to display the value of your bank account by calling your get account name and get balance. So by calling your get methods that are in your bank account.java file. One example would be to say, okay, something like your system.out.println, your account number is plus b.getAccountNumber. And what it'll do is it'll take whatever object you pass in. So say I pass in bank account 1, account 1. It'll say your account number is, for account 1, get account number. So it goes over to this file, goes to get account number, and we didn't code that, it would be down, or we did, get account number, and what this does is it returns this thing here, which is account number. Now we've got that, or we need to get that information from our get data, so you would continue on with this method here and display the rest of the requested information. And after that show values, or before you could do it, we're going to create one last method. Public, static, bank account, and it's called, the data type is bank account because we're returning a bank account out of here, and this is my get data. Open, close. End of get data. Now there's a series of things you need to do in here. I'm not going to code them for you, but they're listed in Blackboard. What you want to do with this one is follow the structure here. In this get data, follow this structure here. Except we're not passing anything in. So we'll create our variables, we'll do an input, and then we'll ask for our numbers and our data. Oh, let me go back. So if I wanted to deal with string account, I would do that. Let me add my scanner object. Okay, so you do one for name and one for balance as well. And then I'd ask my question, number, and then I would just take it in like you would normally. Account equals input dot next line, and it's next line because again it's a string. So do the same for name and balance. After that, to get our objects to run, we're going to create a temporary object, bank account temp equals new bank account. And again, this is similar to what we're doing in SPA services or create SPA services. When you read this section, it'll make more sense. When you look at these examples and run them, it'll make more sense, but you have to read this section before you can do this assignment. Then we'll do our set, so set account number, and we'll pass it account, ACCT. Do the other two sets, and then outside of this function, we're going to return temp. Now we are returning this temporary object that we created right here. We're returning this temporary object to the place that this get data was called, and it was called right up here in our main. We call get data. Which points out a very important error I have. If I'm returning a value from here, it has to return into something. Maybe you noticed this earlier, but inside of main, I typed account1 dot get data, and it should be account1 equals get data. Because this method comes down here, gets the values for account number, balance, string. It goes over to here and sets them. Sets account, sets name, sets balance, and then it returns the entire object back to here. And then when I pass account 1 down to show values, it's called B inside of here, and that's how I display the values of count B. So that is a very long explanation of how you should set up this program. It is very in-depth, but it is very similar to the SPA services program. If you read the chapter carefully, you shouldn't have a problem coding it. One last thing I'll show you is how my program looks, how your sample output should look. So I'm going to make my window really small, clear this. I'm opening up my, well, let me close some of these other windows. I got 8 million windows open. Okay, close mine. I'm going to open up my real bank account one, and I'm also going to open up my real test bank account. Is that the right one? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so here is where my class is in bank account, and here is where my main is. I'm not showing you my code, but I will show you my output. So I have to click on this one because that's where main is, and then run it. And I'll go over to my output window, and this is what's happening. So you entered the first account number, 12345, for Joe Jones, and his balance is $880.45. Remember, we have 4 objects. So here's the next person's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Susan Smith. Wait, she's that child. Susan B. Susan Anthony. And her account balance is $732. And then 98765. Next account, Billy Bob, and his balance is $35.59. So remember, I had 3 objects, but I have 4. The 4th object takes the defaults. So this was my input, and then you make sure you add your sample output to the bottom of your main. But here's my first bank account results. Here's my account, my name, this was my balance. My new balance shows a deduction of $4. Here's the second one for Susan, shows a deduction of $4. And then here's the third for Billy. And finally, this is my account 4. This shows you what I initialized them to. 99999, this is a name. So these are my null values, and it pulls those values from the constructor. So that is it. I hope you understand this concept well. It's very important, and we'll use it with Chapter 4 and the rest of our programs. If you struggle, you need to read carefully pages 139 through the end of the chapter. The beginning of the chapter is important as well. But this really shows you how to break it down and do a complex program using classes, objects, and multiple files. It's very important. Thanks. Have a good day.